The 12 Principles of Animation, explained through the Carlton Dance. The 12 Principles of Animation were introduced in 1981 by Disney animators Ollie, Johnston and Frank Thomas, and they have been a staple of animation ever since. Squash and stretch. The first principle, squash and stretch, refers to the compression or expansion of a body to emphasize volume, speed, and weight. It is important to keep the overall volume of the body consistent. When the body gets longer, it also gets thinner. Anticipation. Anticipation makes the animation more realistic. By making the character prepare for the next move, it also helps the audience to understand what the next action is going to be. Anticipate to the left before you move to the right. Staging. Just like in live action or theatre, good staging is fundamental to give the audience the most information about the scene in a clear, efficient way, by using acting, camera positions, and set design. Using strong poses will easily communicate the action taking place. Using clear facial expressions will communicate mood. The position of the camera and the characters directs the attention of the viewer. A close-up puts the focus on a specific detail. Medium shots are generally used for dialogue. For a full body motion, like a dance, the best option is a long shot, with the main character on the centre of the screen. Attention to the background is important too. The right background will give the most information about the characters and the situation, without interfering with the scene. For a video tutorial, it's better to keep a clear background. Straight ahead and pose to pose. Straight ahead and pose to pose are two different approaches to animation, each with its own pros and cons. In straight ahead, each frame is drawn in order, one after another. In pose to pose, the key frames of the action are drawn first, and then the gaps are filled in with in-betweens. Straight ahead animation tends to be more fluid and spontaneous, with a more natural flow to it, but it is more difficult to control, and it can result in the character going off model. Pose to pose offers an overall better control over the action, timing, shape and volume of the character, but sometimes it can result in stiff, less natural animation. Most animators will work with a combination of both techniques. Follow through and overlapping action. Follow through refers to how loosely attached parts of the body will continue moving after the main body has stopped. The body stops here, but the sleeves of the sweater keep moving until they are pulled in a different direction. Similarly, overlapping actions refer to how different body parts move at different speed and pace. They overlap their movements, reacting to each other. First, the main body moves down. Then the elbow follows the action, and the rest of the arm moves last. Slow in and slow out. Most actions need time to gain speed and momentum. That's why bodies will start moving slowly, reach top speed by the middle of the action, and slow down by the end of the movement. In traditional animation, this effect is achieved by increasing the number of frames at the beginning of the action and near the end of it. Here we can see how the arm starts off slowly, then it gains speed, and it slows down before stopping. Arcs. Most movements in nature take the shape of an arc. Using arcs in characters' movements result in a natural, organic-looking animation. On the other hand, straight movements will achieve a mechanical, artificial look. Secondary action. Secondary actions are gestures and movements that support and add dimension to the main action. It is important for secondary actions to emphasize the main action without distracting or getting in the way of it. In this case, the main action is the dance itself. The first secondary action would be the hand gestures and clapping of the fingers, showing how he is following along with the rhythm of the music. Another secondary action would be the head movement and facial expressions, adding personality and mood to the character. Timing. In animation, timing is controlled by the number of frames drawn between key poses. The more frames we insert between point A and point B, the slower the action. The fewer the frames, the faster it will be. Good control of timing improves the flow and rhythm of the animation. In this case, it is important to make the dance go with the same rhythm with the music, so we can place the key poses in sync with the beat of the song to know how many in-betweens we have to use. If we use too many or too few in-betweens, the dance will be out of rhythm. Exaggeration. Animation is exaggeration. Every animation should have a certain level of exaggeration, depending on the style and level of realism desired. The animation can be completely over the top, or just enough to emphasize the key elements of the scene. Trying to perfectly replicate reality often result in flat, dull animation. Here we see the difference between an animation rotoscoped directly from a live action footage and a slightly exaggerated version. Although the action is the same, the exaggerated version has more impact. Solid drawing. Despite being presented in 2D, any character should feel like a three-dimensional body. To achieve this effect, the animator must be able to draw the character from every angle, and be aware of how the volume, weight, and balance of the character will affect the animation. Proper use of lighting and shading also helps this effect. Appeal. Appeal in animation is what charisma is for an actor. It doesn't necessarily mean that the character has to be good looking, but it should be interesting to look at. A character should be immediately recognisable and distinct from any other on screen. This can be achieved by giving it well-defined shapes or putting emphasis on those characteristics that define the character. A well-designed colour palette can also help to the appeal of the character. Here concludes this little introduction to the 12 principles of animation. I hope you enjoyed this example of how to apply all of them to one single piece of animation. Thanks for watching.